All righty. So my name is Noelle Pollet, and as she said, I've been doing peer stuff for a long time. And the reason I really got motivated to do peer stuff was because I got sort of some amazing healing by doing this thing that I have built a career around. When I first got involved with it, it's called Alternatives to Violence Project, and it is something that the was a kind of a baby of the Attica uprising in New York State when there were, people being treated extremely badly in prisons, a bunch of people, and it was actually throughout the state, but Attica is the famous one, just sort of got together, figured out a way, let us do something, and it ended up being a traumatic bloodbath. And after that, people were farmed out to different prisons all over New York State, and they some ended up in Greenhaven, which happened to be fairly close to where I lived. And so in 1975, incarcerated people who had been shipped to Greenhaven invited Quakers' help, who in turn invited civil rights leaders, and together they built Alternatives to Violence Project. And since then, it has made inroads into 65 countries. And it was after, my first diagnosis, I was 6 years old. And I went through, a bunch before I had experienced this 3-day workshop that just was the most transformative thing that I had been through in my entire life. And I said, this is my life. I could tell this is just something I'm going to stick with. And it's just an engaging, equality-based kind of thing you do with people in groups, activities one after the other. And that's what we're going to do today, is experience it. I got permission, and there are people now invited in Alternatives to Violence Project to learn the skills and then create something of their own, an adaptation. And that's what this is. So I'm going to just show us what it is while we're learning how it might apply to peer supervision. Alternatives to Violence Project is a very much leadership kind of training experience, because you go through a basic workshop, and then you go through an advanced workshop, and then you go through a training workshop. And after that, you're an apprentice facilitator. So the reason it spreads so well is because everybody who does it seems to love it and wants to come back and get the next level of training. And so they're out there, just grow like grassroots. And I would love and have, that's been my dream for decades, for this to really, really take hold, light the match and just do the peer movement. And I will just brag about a couple of little things. I worked in 2 different MHAs in New York State. Now I live in California, by the way, but one of them I just spent about a year and a half or so just doing a 2-hour, first it was every 2 weeks, then it was every week, little piecework formatted thing. And when I left to move to California, it ran for a year without me. And I told them the whole time, you don't need me, you can just do this process yourself. And they had staff members come and go, but the people who were so passionate about it, and there were outcomes in their own lives from this. Some of the people really had, made real progress. It's just an amazingly transformational thing. And then the real brag was during COVID, Rochester, New York, I did 1 hour. I said, the best thing I could do is to show you, because they wanted me to come to a community building meeting, and I forgot what they asked for, but I said, the best thing I could do is just show you how this operates. And so I came doing a little piecework format agenda, but I said, everything I'm doing, I'm going to invite a volunteer to do something instead of me. And everything, every piece, the welcome, well, I did the welcome, but the grounding exercise, the agreement, everything was taken on by other people. And because they had that hour of confidence of building something themselves, they took it. And in both cases, the programs that came out of this when I was not involved anymore were the most attended programs they had, because it is just pure joy to have a sense of that kind of equality. The totem animal of this process are the birds that fly in flocks, where I'm the leader. No, I'm the leader. I'm the leader. It's just sort of some intuitive thing that happens. And there is a kind of component they call it transforming power, that there is a power available all the time. Let me see, I'm going to stop my video for a moment because it was unstable. I don't want you to not hear me. And so it's just kind of magical how if we're like a healthy pack is how I feel like this provides an opportunity to be in a healthy pack. And the pack leader is our whatever kind of higher power or It doesn't have to be a spiritual concept at all. It could just be that, the smarts that we have that we're not in touch with are, unconscious or whatever. But however anyone defines it, that's a big component as well. So I do not like talking forever. That's not what this is about. But I do want to just do a few little bumping me off when I try to put it on here. So I'm going to actually show you the agenda that I work with. And so I got to do a share screen here, share screen, and there's the agenda and share. And this is what it looks like. Welcome on Alternatives to Violence Project, a little bit on peace work. The building blocks of the process, generally speaking, we start with some form of affirmation. We move into some communication type of exercises. It depends on the group, because once people are comfortable, you can dispense with a lot of the building blocks, because community is the purpose, building community. And I told you already, there's some kind of, spiritual or whatever you want to call it component that really shows up. Agenda preview, what we're going to do is I'm shortly going to be inviting somebody to do a little grounding if they're willing. And then a gathering is kind of a go round where we all finish a statement one after the other. And then we have a little dyads exercise. Hopefully that's possible. If not, we can dispense with that, but I'm hoping, I'm usually able to do that myself. Then we have a light and lively, which is just a playful moment, and I've named it Scream. We'll see what that's about. Then we have some peer profundity opportunity for us to share wisdom, and that is the purpose of why this is so effective for supervision, is that we're not coming like we've got all the answers. We're in that humble place of we're constantly learning. And then whatever, I guess there's a break somewhere in here, so you'll tell me when that is. I assume, Constance, right? You'll give us a heads up.
Yes, well, actually, whenever you would like that, if you want it an hour in or.
Okay, I'll just keep an eye on the timing and offer people a bio break or whatever you like at that time.
Okay.
And you can also
great.
opt not to do it. It's up to you guys.
Great. And also, Noelle.
Just an affectionate.
Noelle.
Yes.
The audio, as someone said in the chat, it's a bit choppy. I wonder.
Okay. I think, sad as it seems, the most effective thing I know for that is to not be looking at my face. So I will keep putting when I'm talking, I'll put mine off, but when anyone else is talking, I'll put it on, and I'm not supposed to be talking too very much, so that might work.
Okay.
So cooperative agreement wise, I had a list of those too. Let's see. I can have an old one. I made a special one, but here's the. Right. Oh, that's not the right one. And here we go. There we go. Those three are my favorite. Right to pass. If anything doesn't feel good at any point, at any time, right in the middle of an exercise, bail. You're here to take care of you first. And that's a good idea. And then elegance has to do with, aim for sharing the airfare, keep it short and simple. It's nicer to not have one voice too long. And that's why I should be stopping any second now. And then also affirm, aiming not to put ourselves down or others. That is a work in progress for me. But okay, so let me go back to my other thingy, virtual background. And I was looking for some brave human who in this group who might be willing to lead us in a brief few minutes. The idea being we get into our own bodies, we get into our hearts, we get into this notion of being connected to one another. And this is actually not part of Alternative to Violence projects, but I know it just always helps me show up. And so I assume it helps others. I actually have heard it helps others. So is there anyone that does that in their work a little bit? Does a little grounding exercises? And if not, I'll do it, but it's much more fun, more voices. Yay! Gwen, bless your heart. Go right ahead.
I'll just unmute real quick. But I'm a Christian. So when I do my grounding, I do it with prayer. Is that okay in this group? Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, so if anybody finds that okay, let us know now. Because I'm fine with that. Nobody in the chat chimed in. That's awesome. Go ahead, Gwen.
Okay, but before I do, I'm just going to kind of, I'll read some affirmation statements too. And I'd just like to ask everybody to close your eyes. And I'm sorry, my grandson came in here real quick. You have to go out, baby. Go out and close grandma's office. Go out. No, I can't. Go out. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. She'll be free any minute now. She'll be free soon.
Okay. All right. So I would like to ask everybody to close their eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it for 2, and then out and hold it, out for 4, and then hold it for 2, and then breathe in for 4. Hold it for 2. Breathe out for 4. Hold it for 2. One more time. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. And out for 4. Okay, I am praying that you know just how very loved you are today. This is real love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and he sent his only son to take away our sins. When we find love, when we find God, when we find purpose, we are able to do things that are good, true, worthy, and loving for others. It's amazing what you and God can do when you work together. So today I just want to lift up everybody here and just pray for peace, love, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. I ask and pray for hearts to be surrendered to love and respect. And I also ask and pray that healing takes place from the top of your heads to the bottom of your toes. And I pray that every limb in your body is able to relax and be present in this moment. And that you can focus on the things that you need to focus on right now and right here in the present, because yesterday is gone and tomorrow isn't here yet. So today we have this beautiful gift of being present right here and right now today. Amen.
That was quite beautiful, Gwen. Thank you so much. And there was a couple of, considerations. One is that if you are actually in a supervisory position and you can invite people before you start to take a moment to check in if you're spiritual and that works for everybody else. If you have a particular orientation like Christianity, like Gwen does, or anything, that you could, check in, make sure that everybody's comfortable with that as she did, and then do your piece, because anything that helps the relationships and all those beautiful words she offered is a good mindset to enter into any kind of supervisory thing. Just sitting down and chop, 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 I've got something I need to tell you, without any kind of heart or preparation is probably not going to be as fertile time together. So that was cool. And I forgot to ask you when I showed you my beautiful ideas of what are good cooperative agreements. you're invited to share yours. Does anybody have any particular ones they would like to, for this 2 hours? And you can also think in terms for yourself of what you would like to have community agreements or cooperative agreements be in a supervisory situation, and also have the person that you're supervising or the group of people also give feedback so that they all feel like they've got some power in creating a container that's going to work for everybody. So does anybody have any more agreements they would like to pop in with? And you can stick them in the chat at any point if you come up with something, but that's another little point. All of these little elements of the agenda have a purpose that would serve supervision, in my opinion, and do, because it's a very, yes, Gwen, your new hand up? Or should I put your hand down? Oh, okay, there we go. All righty. So the next thing on the agenda is the gathering. Where am I? Let me show it the next thing on the agenda. And this really is, you don't have to do it, all elements, but consider, consider what elements you might want to do. You might want to do a grounding. You might want to create agreements together. And this gathering statement is a really awesome way to begin any kind of a meeting. I just totally recommend it because everybody gets to feel connected and personal, with one another. It's the healthy pack ingredients. So I'll share the screen again so you can see it. Something brilliant I already know that works about what works in supervision. Something brilliant I already know about what works in supervision is, and with this small enough group, and maybe some people remember you've got the right to pass, don't go too long, maybe like a sentence or two, but it doesn't have to be one word. So I will say something brilliant I know about supervision. Let me block me. I would say I am learning from coaches right now in a spiritual community that I just adore. And what they have shown me, which I believe now is 100% responsibility, is the best way to approach life on this planet. And that means that as a supervisor, if I get triggered because somebody's not doing something or is doing something, and I'm coming at the situation with an energy of discontent, ire, anger, irritation, I need to go back in time and find out what seed was planted in my yesterday that brings me to this moment in a state that is not loving. Because if I show up with love, if I clean up this, value the triggers, because they can show you what to clean up. And if I can clean up my own stuff, be 100% responsibility for the fact that I'm angry about something, then I am in the best position to be the supervisor that can, honor the person, tell the truth, draw a line, but do it in love. And that's the best way for anything to happen. There's so much drama that happens in peer supervision, and it's largely because we're just pointing fingers at each other, thinking that one's to blame, when it's really, we have so much power to clean it up within ourselves. So that was way more than 2 sentences. And so try to make it shorter than that. That was my my guidance. So with that, I think a gathering is always, every voice is heard. So I'm just going to, I'm going to ask somebody I'm going to send it to somebody send it to the next person, and just say pass or write pass in the chat if you don't want to do it. And if the person doesn't do anything, they might not even be present. So because I see you, Robin, can I turn it to you? And just that question was something brilliant I already know about what works in supervision.
Sure, yeah. I'm actually really new to the supervisory role. I just stepped into it in the last half of December. But I know one thing that my supervisor has done for me that was really powerful, and that will stick with me forever, was I was going through a period of time where I was having a hard time getting out of bed. I was running late to work every day. And she kind of took me aside, and instead of being like, hey, you're late, you need to be on time, she was like, do we need to adjust your schedule? What would make this easier for you? And so really looking at like what would help me succeed as opposed to just like telling me what I needed to do. And I thought that was really powerful.
Excellent. So you pass it to someone else, if you will.
I see him. So Richie, I'll pass it to Richie.
Thank you. Well, I wrote mine in the chat, and for me, it's spend more time listening and less time talking. And I know some of the folks I work with have heard me say, "Would you tell me more about that?" so often that they always say, "Are you going to want me to tell you more about that?" You know, and so that really works for me. Thank you. And let's see. How about Gwen? That's who's up there.
Okay, I like to talk, you guys, so, but I'm gonna be, keep it short. There's two things that is very important in a supervisory role here at our organization. Relational is very important to us. So it's important for us all, not just our staff, but also our members, that we learn each other's love language. And so, because everything here is based off of love, value, and respect. And so when people come in, if they're having a bad day, and we know their love language, we know how to pour into them, right? My love language is touch. So it's like, if I'm having a bad day, everybody's giving me hugs, patting me on the back and stuff like that, kind of thing. So love language is very important to what we do to keep our staff engaged and encouraged. The other thing is we do the DISC profile. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but it's a profile that puts that a person will do, and it tells you if you're a driver, if you are oh my gosh, my brain just went dead, but it tells you your sweet spots and on how you like to work. So yeah, driver, influencer, the S stands for steady, and then the C stands for calculator. So a driver gets stuff done, an influencer can sell anything. The steady person is a planner, and then the calculator is the one that makes sure all the rules are taken care of. And so making sure that people are in their right spots, it also helps. So imagine going to a place to work where you're not only feeling loved, valued, and respected, but you're also in your sweet spot for working, right? So everybody loves to come here for work. It's our second home. So that's kind of just some advice that I have.
All right, who to? That was fantastic. Who to?
All right, next, I say CC.
Hi, I'm Cece. I work with the Pacific Link State Tunnel down in Ventura County in Oxnard. It's in Southern California. And as someone who has worked in peer services and started off as a peer, and I'm currently supervising peers, I think for me, one of the things that I know works is allowing my peers the ability to learn to set professional boundaries and encourage them to practice self-care on their free time. You know, because one of the things that I realized when I first started off as a peer was I would give, and give, but I never refill my own cup. So, and that led like really quickly to burnout. So providing that safe space where they can practice self-care and have a plan at work when they need to practice it at work. And being that open, safe space for them, I think, are the things that I kind of been taking so far.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
those-
Will you pass it on? And I'm saying these wonderful people with their cameras on are getting a little bit more of a lion's share of the time because they are leaders. They're going first, their faces on the screen, and we're going to make it quicker for the rest of you guys because otherwise we won't get through the whole show. So try to keep it to a sentence or two. But I think Constance could go if you're willing, because her face is up there.
Hi, thank you. I just said I should probably pass in the chat because I'm coaching in TTA, but I will say as far as peer work, I love what's been said, and I love the spirit of helpfulness and the spirit of moving towards someone as an equal in an effort to help the person succeed. And then we're all succeeding. I love that, but that's all I'm going to say. I look forward to hearing everyone.
Okay, so would you pass to someone, or maybe I sort of took it away from CC to pass to you, but is there somebody else who wants their hand up
Richie?
Richie already went, so we're looking for anybody who doesn't have their camera on.
I'll go next. This is
Yay.
Antoinette. What I have learned about supervision is that the person on the team who's complaining the loudest, is going to be assigned the leadership role the next time around.
Wow. That, I think we should do a whole workshop on that. That's amazing. All right. I'm going to just leave it at, normally every single voice is heard, even if it's just to say I passed, but I would like, I'm so bummed out. I can't do the chat. I'm just not good at doing the chat and doing this at the same time. But is there anybody else that would like to share their brilliant knowing of what's good or what's powerful in supervision right off the bat? Anybody else got one they want to share? Hands up. Do.
And Noelle, I can also read a few of the things in the chat if that helps you.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so I'll go backwards. So Gwen Schrank, 5 love language.
Yep, she already went. So if we're looking for,
Yes. Oh, you don't want me to read all of them, even if the person
okay, well, go ahead,
went?
go ahead.
Okay. 5 love languages and DISC profiles helps us supervise and maintain a wonderful relationship balance with our team. If it's a person's idea, they get to lead the project. Valeria, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I like to validate and encourage during supervision. Richie Allen, spend more time listening, less time talking. Ask, would you tell me more about that? And then I think we're pre this discussion. So that's it.
All righty, thank you very much. Okay, I have a feeling that because I'm not sure, I just want to make sure, anybody else whose camera is off, would you like to contribute anything in the chat or with your hand up and say something? Because I think because of the way this dynamic is of having people's cameras on but not knowing if they're there or if they're willing to contribute, that I am not going to be able to do some of the planned exercise. Yay, there's one. Go ahead. That's Cassie, if you want to get that right. If you got something. Do you want to unmute Cassie and share something?
Sorry, what was that?
Did you want to unmute and share something? You were looking, you showed up.
Yeah, sorry. I just got into the group. I just came back from another event. So I'm sorry for jumping into
No,
this
that's
presentation late. So I'm not quite sure what we're all talking about right now.
We're finishing this statement that asks something brilliant I already know about what works in supervision is. You know something brilliant about?
What kind of supervision are we talking about?
Peer supervision. That's, you know, what this conference is about, like this notion of peers supervising peers? How can we do that well?
I'm right now, I'm in a spot where I am a, fellow peer. I'm not in a spot of supervising just yet. So I don't really have an answer. Just like I said, I just jumped into this presentation.
That's
So
all right. And we've got an exercise coming right up that will explore, how you like to be supervised. You probably do have some brilliant ideas about, I like it when somebody says, but we'll get there. Okay, so I think I'm going to close out the gathering, but this is an incredibly powerful thing because everybody's voice is heard, everybody matters, everybody chimes in. It's like anteing up. I'm anteing up. Even if I say I pass, I have contributed something to the group, and it's actually pretty powerful to say I pass because you're kind of going against the grain sometimes to do that, standing up in your power in that way. So, all righty, what's next? I'm going to take a look because it's not behind me. There we go. Share. This was the thing I was going to do dyads, but I'm a little bit scared about the notion of putting people into pairs when they might not be present, so they might not want to contribute. I do groups all the time, at least 3 a week of this nature, but people who are engaged actually want to be there. So they have, they're present. I see them as a rule. And so I'm just a little scared of putting somebody in a room with somebody who is not present or doesn't want to be involved. So I don't know how to do that. So I think what I'm going to do instead of this, which would have been really fun because these kind of breakout sessions are really powerful. You probably know that already in your worlds, but is what do I or would I most appreciate in a supervision relationship? That was what I was going to have people talk about. Oops, I hope you can hear me still for a spell. But instead of that, what I will do is just do the brainstorm and have folks, I guess I could show you share. Will people chime in at will? I think we got some great ones. I already wrote them down, but when you're thinking about what kind of wait, let me stop this. I get my so you can hear me for sure. When you're thinking about what you love to be treated like in a being supervised, most supervisors have supervisors. So what do you love the best? Anybody can chime in and I'll just write things down.
This is Cece. So for me, I really like when a supervisor gives you the ability to be like autonomous, like when you're able to kind of direct the way that you want within the guidelines and boundaries or parameters of like the agency that you work with, but be able to direct your style of like peer support and be able to enhance on your like enhance your strengths and use your strengths as your callus like moving forward.
Okay.
Hi, this is Carolyn.
Hi.
One thing that I would like is to be heard. A supervisor that allows me to share without giving me an answer right away. What I should do and just allow me to process it and hear. So basically to be heard, to be listened to.
So Richie's got it. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like when my supervisor recognizes skills that I have that I don't normally use. Like I come from an IT background before I got into behavioral health, and it builds me up when they consult me instead of calling the IT guys in, even though I'd make a lot more money as an IT guy. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I'll say I love, or I don't have to put that in, but the people owning their mistakes. Supervisors make mistakes too, and there's nothing so delicious as when somebody says, whoops, I was wrong about that, sorry, or whatever, just. So I guess authenticity is a good one there too.
I like being asked about like my problem or talked through the problem solving process. What do you think you should do about this? Why do you think you're feeling this way about this situation? As opposed to just being given like advice or an answer.
All right, that's great. All these are great. I love some of Gwen's stuff, having them really understand this is the sort of person I am. This is my comfort zone of how to exist. And, having that taken into consideration, that was pretty nifty.
One of the things I like in a supervisor, for a supervisor who has supervised over me, is calling me higher, kind of like what Richie said, giving me the opportunity to grow, and it's okay to make mistakes. Like this is, you learn from mistakes. Mistakes are just opportunities that can be learned from. So, sometimes people don't know what they know until they try. And so I like that ability instead of kind of like micromanaged supervisory management.
In my community, they say clunky is the new perfect. Every time we're getting outside of our comfort zone, learning something new, we're clunky. You gotta make some mistakes to get the hang of anything, Cool. What else we got? Any more ideas on how you love to be supervised?
So we're coming from this perspective as one who is being supervised rather than one who is supervising.
I think that it's a really good place to understand how it feels to you so that that's a really good basis. So I figured that was a place to start.
I appreciate a supervisor, and I think it was sort of said before, but a supervisor who is willing to allow me the freedom to experiment and sort of forge new paths.
And bring passions to work. That's sort of the same thing, kind of, in a way.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany. I'll just share a little bit. I think my mom's Gwen, if you guys didn't know that. A supervisor that I like and that I look up to, my mom kind of will tell me, Gwen will tell me that she's always constantly trying to work herself out of a job. She wants to be able to train her team in order to, for them to be able to take over her position. So I like a supervisor who's willing to not only provide resources for me to grow, but to not be afraid that I'm going after their position per se, but wanting us to be as successful to be able to get into that role, because I feel like there's always some type of hierarchy in positions and supervisory positions where supervisors are afraid or not willing to let their sub peers in on information or just resources or opportunities, because it's that whole thing. I want to see you do good, but not as good as I am, or have the opportunities like I have. And so I'm always happy to have a supervisor who's willing to put your best foot forward and give you the opportunities for you to grow without thinking that they're coming after your job or anything like that.
Thank
Hi,
you.
my name is Migdalia Ortiz. I'm listening to everyone speak about what they like about supervision, and I just wanted to share, first of all, that I'm in the East Coast in New York, and a lot of the participants are over there in California. So hello, California. I have to share that I just started working in my new job in November after a 20-year absence in the workforce for the same negative reasons that the other peers have mentioned, of supervisors that were intimidated by my ambition and my zest for knowledge and my zest to be better. I was in a lot of job environments that were toxic. So I was very cautious about returning to work and making sure that I was in the right environment as a peer, because I'm very, very clear as to what a peer role should be. And my supervisors, I have two, the director, the medical director, who's a psychiatrist, and the psychologist is the clinical supervisor. And this is the first time in my life, and I'm gonna be 60, even though my voice sounds young, in January 1st, I have had the best experience, work experience, where everything fits. My supervisors, my colleagues, the job that I do, I am so blessed that finally at this
That's
time of my
wonderful.
life, thank you, I
What
found
what is the supervisor specifically doing that she's showing you or he's showing you?
everything that I never got before.
Like
Mentorship,
not intimidated by your ambition.
not at all. As a matter of fact, totally encouraging me to do more, and actually concerned if she's giving me too much work, which that
Cool.
doesn't happen,
Thank you. Thank you.
and constantly both constantly complimenting me, because they hear from the patients and the patients tell them, I like Migdalia, I like what she says to me, and they constantly let me know that.
All right, that's terrific. I got a bunch out of you. Encouragement, compliments, listening to people we serve, not intimidated by ambition. Thank you. Anyone else got anything? We got that pretty well covered. And I'm happy to, copy and paste this in the chat, or, anything that this is all gold. And this is just one thing. I mean, if you literally had a group of people, I don't know, some folks are probably supervising one person, and that's going to go differently. I had this idea that if this started happening, that we were kind of doing these group processes so that a team of people, we are listening to a team of people here right now with beautiful ideas, and every one of them adds to the intelligence that we're growing. Everybody's got a piece of the puzzle, and if you have that kind of a dynamic at work, then all those everybody's feeling somewhat empowered. Everybody's, learning from everybody. I was part of the Recovery to Practice Next Steps, which was a SAMHSA funded training. And it was a training that was based on advanced peers who've been doing it for a year or more were not having enough of the information they needed. So this was a training to fill in those gaps. And at first it was a 250 slide training. And that was the pilot, 250 slides over 5 days. And there was mutiny because people were saying, that's not peer, that's somebody reading off a wall. And they were disgusted, not with the content, which was brilliant, but with the delivery, because it just didn't have any kind of peer feeling to it. And so they allowed these kind of experiential processes to folks have been doing the work for a year, they can teach each other, make sure they get the information that you want to get across. That can be, and we actually built Rita Cronice in New York at Rutgers University. Not then, she wasn't there, but she built a workbook. So there was a self-study workbook. So all the stuff got learned that we wanted to make sure they learned, but 90% of it, or some great percent, was learned just from cross-pollination of people knowing stuff because they're doing it every day, and knowing where they have a question, and then somebody else had that issue and they bring up the answer. So this format that I'm doing today was just a choice. I just made a number of choices. It seems like a good idea for supervisors to know what they value in supervisors, as to go in, because at least they're going to make sure that they're giving that to the folks they're serving. So anyway, but if you could imagine that, if you've got a team of people that they could every week be working this way and sharing, there could be a period of time where they're sharing their challenges, and then everybody is helping them with the answers. And you would be more like the lead facilitator than, just a person in a real differential power position. Also, if we could spread this, then if you happen to be a solo person, or a supervisor of a one person on a team or something like that, then we could really consider cross-pollinating with other organizations, so that there was, a Zoom where a number of people got on there and did this work together. And it's just very sweet and easy to come up with an agenda that sort of follows the the guidelines, and you don't have to do it all. You could just do a gathering, do a light and lively, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. I'm hoping it works. So that was pretty much the meat that I wanted to get out of that last exercise. I had hoped for the experience of pairs in breakout rooms, because it's so intimate, and literally, if you could consider having your first supervisory meeting with an individual in that way, that you're both, let's both talk about what we value in a supervisor, what's the most important things we can think of, and you can both talk for 5 minutes and really flesh that out. Because if you both are on the same page and you hear each other's answers to that question, there's a good chance that relationship gets off on a good foot. So that's that. And the next thing on the agenda is the light and lively, and I'll show it to you on here just because I'm doing it. Oops, maybe I'll just stick this in if I can. Excuse me one moment. That was just the wrong thing. I wasn't meaning to share it, but since I did this, Control-C, I might as well stick it in the chat. And then if anybody wants to save the chat, all those phenomenal Control-V responses were all for you. And now I'll do this again, share screen. Oops, that's not the one. Here we go. This is a light and lively. In the middle of each of these piecework experiences, alternatives to violence session, Alternatives to Violence Project goes for 3 days in the prison, 2.5 days, 18 to 22 hours. But I do a lot of things that are an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But if we do this light and lively, and then we can consider having a break right afterwards if you want to go get a cup of coffee or take a pee or whatever you need to do. I call it Scream. And the idea is we raise our hands. This is a voluntary thing, only raise your hand if you want to offer some kind of horror that you've experienced already. I forgot your beautiful name. It begins with an M, but you expressed a little bit of a, so I just had an example, having to tell someone they need to take a bath. Now that I've had that circumstance in my world. Stop share. So if we raise our hand, we tell a thing like that, that's my example. And then everybody either on mute or out loud, or, just do some kind of expression of how uncomfortable that makes you feel or how horrified. So I'm going to just go like, That's just too horrifying to have to be in that role. And I bet you if we had a little exercise on how do you deal with things that are hard to say to people, I would learn a lot. But oh, thank you there, Medallia. Is that how you would pronounce it? With the G soft?
Yes, Migdalia.
Migdalia. Okay, thank you. That's very
Oh,
beautiful.
I could share something even
Oh,
more
okay.
perversive than that. I had two supervisors. One was an executive director and the other one was an associate director, two different agencies that would let air out while they were supervising me. And I had to keep a straight face instead of running out the room.
All right,
because
so
I
she just
needed-
shared something very, very, very wonderful, and we're supposed to have some kind of reaction, all of us together, whoever's willing, just do something like, you know, yeah, she's got, right, she's got a figure like, oh, God. Perfect, thank you for playing along there. All right, who else? Anybody else got something we can scream about or? Oh, Gwen, yay.
All right, that's funny. Okay, so we have a breathe room. It's a room that's just beautiful where anybody can go in and meditate and or lay down, and there's aromatherapy, and it's just a beautiful room. And someone went in there and took off all their clothes and was trying to redecorate. And one of my staff members was like, "Oh, Gwen, could you please?" So then I go and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Okay, I walk in, I'm like, excuse me, what's going on in here? You know?
Right,
And-
everybody give Gwen some like.
And he was like, "I'm just trying to help clean up and redecorate." Can you please put your clothes back on? We're about to close. Oh, yeah, that was something that happened.
That's
And it
lovely.
was
Thank you. We got one from Robin. Thank you very much, Gwen. That was great.
Mine is not quite as humorous. I I had a supervisor threaten to fire me while I was in the ER for a psychotic break. So
That's like an angry one. You got some in the chat. Anyway, all right. Did we all make enough face? I guess everybody's doing it with their, that's beautiful, however you do it. Anybody else with a need to, or a willingness? All right, well, that was a made up Light and Lively, made up this morning. I didn't know if it was going to work or not. And I've got actually for Zoom, if anybody does this stuff on Zoom, I've got, I think 80 some Zoom Light and Livelies because I keep making them up and I've got them from other places and all kinds of stuff. It doesn't have to relate to the topic or not. I know one we do is riding the bobsled. So I'm going to be the leader of the bobsled. Who wants to be the brake? And somebody volunteers to be the brake. And then I'm like, okay, we're about to take off, and everybody, I'm going to, left. Actually, that's right, and left, and boom, 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 and everybody's doing the thing with me, jumping up and down, and going left and going to the right, and then the guy eventually turns on the brake. We all just, so I mean, whatever it is to make you laugh, be goofy. You could do your little "I'm a little teapot" thing. There's just so. The reason for that, does anybody have any idea why we would do that in the middle of this? Anybody?
Well, it hits the reset button.
It really does. There is some research out there. I can't remember what specifically the number is, but it's like a 40% greater retention when you play, when you're in a mindset of enjoyment and play, and it just takes everything so lightly, that for Gwen, we ain't making it into the kingdom of heaven unless we're like children. We get like children, just this whole playful, it just takes it out of the realm of, oh my God, everything's so serious. And when peers are working with people who need to kind of help peers help, we need to just feel some lightness and some play. It's really hard to, just be in serious mode the whole time, so I'm sure there's another 5,000 reasons why it's a good thing, but it really is just in the middle of everything. And now I do committee calls for the Alternatives to Violence Project, and I wouldn't do those for years because they were dry and boring. And I don't understand why it's such a great organization. We do this great stuff, and our meetings, our committee meetings are just horrifyingly boring. I said, if we did a gathering, if we did a light and lively, if we did a closing, I could tolerate everything in the other stuff. And they all do that now, which makes me very happy. They're honoring that. So I think it is break time. If you guys want to disappear for a little while and take care of your needs, and come back at somewhere, around 4-ish, or that's 4 California, or 4 California time, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll be here.
Okay.
And I'm here to talk and answer questions in the meanwhile, if anybody wants to. I'm sleepy today. I don't know. I've had enough sleep, but my energy is kind of in a low ebb for whatever reason.
How's the weather over there?
Where I am, which is Northern California, right near Oregon and Nevada, it's
Wow.
really, really beautiful today. It's bright and sunny, but it's cool. I am 4,500 feet above sea level where I am in the high desert.
Well, I'm in New York City, and New York City the weather is acting just like the city. Crazy. Some days is nice, and then some days, like today, you have to put your coat on and your hat and your gloves. And then tomorrow says if the weather's cooperates, it'll be on the upper 60s, and then it'll go down again to the 30s. It's just like a roller coaster. But I have a question. If we have a moment while we're on break,
Yep,
I didn't share my lived experience, and I won't take too long, but I did share that it took 20 years to return to work. And prior to that leave of absence, I had already achieved academically the highest level that I could possibly get, being the first in my family to finish high school, college, and grad school. And 3 years after that, my mental health went on a spiral. And it took 32 years of therapy with the same therapist that I am so grateful for. And I tell him all the time, if it wasn't for him, I would not be alive today. Self-searching and reading and educating myself. So I started this job in the entry level as a peer 1, with the excitement of growth in the department where I'm at, and with the one of the largest public hospitals in the country, with New York City Health and Hospital, which is where I started from the very beginning. I did my internship with the headquarters when I got my master's, and learned nothing, absolutely nothing, from the president at the time through going further down of his colleagues, etc., and other places where I've worked. Again, it was nothing that I am learning right now. And I do have hope, with the expectation that I can move up the ladder. But like I said, I did not have good mentors, supervisors, coaches, bosses, etc. I want to be able to have the skill as a supervisor from the supervisor that I have now, or the two supervisors that I never had in my life. How do I need special training as a peer in supervision? I know that with my certificate as a peer specialist, the training that I got, it was with the Academy of Peers. And I haven't looked at it since I got my provisional certificate, almost 3 years ago or something like that. I don't know if they have specific courses that I can take. But
I don't know either. I don't know either. What I do know, I think that I'm catching on. I sort of was very heavily involved with the peer move. I should put my thing camera off. Sometimes I hear it. It chops up when I'm not don't have my camera on, but I was involved with the peer movement very steadily for 25 years or so. And lately I've been involved in a kind of a different path a little bit, kind of a spiritual community. And I'm training them to take this out to their people because they are very motivated to be coaches and, turn their personal mess into a message and help the world in that way. So I'm just noticing it feels like I'm having more people use it, so I just want to have folks try it out and use it. And so where was my point? Oh, but since I've been gone, which is, I think it's about 3 years since I moved out here, and I'm not as heavily involved with the peer movement anymore at this point. I have just really seen the consciousness raise. I think it's raising on the whole planet, but I think you're experiencing something more positive. Maybe this is not people's experience, please tell me, but I just, the insights that I'm noticing are coming from people. I think that the art of supervision is growing. And so maybe there will be trainings. If there aren't, I don't know anything about that though. But you could definitely check with the Peer Academy in New York and they would know.
yeah, and it's crazy because even though I did not, I say I've been absent in the workforce for 20 years, but that meaning a real job. But I got my KSAC-T and I did some work in a 28-day stay substance abuse facility. And the supervisor that supervised me was good, but he was constantly stressed out. And then his supervisor was just horrible with verbal abuse, etc. And it was just, I was happy that I was not a salary person there, that I was a volunteer. And when they offered me a job, I said, no, thank you. And then 5 years ago, I got an opportunity to work and got training from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene here in New York City to get all the certificates. And then they assigned me to a site that was supposedly to help in mental health. Actually, it was called the Mental Health Association. Then they changed their name to Ribin Health. And my supervisor I was constantly at odds and ends with her because she was so resistant to the training that I wanted to get. And the supervision, I don't even think she knew how to do supervision with me, yet she took training to become as a supervisor, and she didn't follow any of her training skills.
Yeah, actually, that used to be what I always heard. So maybe my what I just said was a little bit of fantastical fantasy because I remember that's another reason why having teams facilitating rather than just, the hierarchy of I am up here, you're down there. Even if you are a peer, a lot of maybe, my experience of hearing stories, at least in the past years, is that there was people that would really kind of take advantage of that power opportunity that and lord it over people in certain ways, and that's certainly not the peer ideal. So
no, absolutely. And if when I have a best friend that I've had for 43 years, and she's a psychiatrist, a clinician, though she's on private practice, so she really doesn't have a big staff. It's just her and her assistant. So she really can't relate to the experience because she's been in private practice for almost 20 years or so. But my therapist was a supervisor and probably still is. I'm not sure what his role is in the clinic where he provides services for me, but he is so much like yourself, in tune to himself and his weakness and his strength, and totally not egotistical. That would be the word of his,
Nice.
you know. And I tell him, especially as a social worker, that a lot of social workers that I've come across, that I've had to interact with for health, for family counseling, etc., you can see that they got so much baggage and so much issues that they haven't resolved. I'll give you an example.
Can I just hold you for one moment? The only reason I'm doing this is because I just feel like if, in case there's somebody else who's got anything they want to say during this break, is there anybody else? Okay, I think you're good. I just didn't want to keep anybody else from having an opportunity. Go ahead.
Well, he was supposed to give family counseling to me and my son, who at the time was a teenager and a very rebellious, diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, etc. And I was trying to talk to him about my son debating with me about his homework. And he only wanted to talk to my son. And I'm like, but this is a family counseling session. And when when I went to his office with my son, he started to berate me in front of my son as to, this is his office and da 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 da. And, he's in control. And it took many years to stand up for myself. I'm very good at standing up for others. But when it comes to standing up for myself, I had a serious problem. And it's because I was constantly bullied by family and the environment around me. But that moment when he totally tried to belittle me in front of my son, I told him, you're right. This is your office and you have every right to control this office, but you have no right to control my son or me. And I have the right to get up and leave. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And he went into shock that I stood up for myself, and I was in shock. But I share that because a lot of people, especially in the mental health field, especially in the helping field, if you're not together, you're not doing service. You're actually not doing service. You're passing on your trauma and your insecurity and your issues to your patient, to your peer, to whoever it is that you're supposed to provide service to.
That was a brilliant statement. If you could just write that up and put that in the chat, that was brilliant.
The minute I said it, because it comes from the heart.
Yep. I think that's so true. I mean, that's what the whole story of our dysfunctional world is. We each have to take responsibility and clean up our own mess. It's too bad it was handed to us apparently, but we don't know the big picture. That might have been, something we signed up for or whatever. But whatever the truth is, we're stuck with it now. Clean it up and don't crap on other people with it.
And we're
so.
Daily basis. We're seeing that in social media and government and just everywhere. And it comes to the fact that people have to be accountable to themselves. And there's nothing wrong with being responsible for yourself. And mistakes.
I'm with you. I think that was wonderful. It's not always so easy. Lately, I have been in a community where they hold up the mirror. They're very honest, And I've been seeing things in myself that are not, I think that actually has an effect on why my energy is a little whacked out today, is because I have been integrating new awarenesses of how I affect other people or how they see me. And it's not always comfortable. And what a beautiful thing. And by the way, I will be sharing some resources that will point people in a direction of ways to give feedback. But what you said is, to me, so important, is if we could just take on the responsibility of cleaning up our act, and we show up as best we can in every aspect of our lives, including being supervisors. So,
Well, thank you for validating my statement. I appreciate it.
well, I appreciated your statement. It was one of the clearer ones I ever heard.
For someone whose family considers to be totally dysfunctional.
Well, we are a blessed lot, because we have noticed there's something going on and we're working on it. That's a lovely thing. It's just about getting to be time back it was a little more than 15 minutes because I stopped a little earlier, but I don't want to not have other folks here. I think I will wait for Constance and have her. Yes, go ahead, Noelle. Are you there, Constance? No. Just another couple of minutes. She probably worked her butt off today. I know she did. So how about you, Richie? I loved your listening.
Thank you. I've been juggling client stuff all day in between breaks and stuff. So.
Wow. Well, I'm glad and honored that you are hanging in for this one. This is a long one.
Yeah, I saw I went through the schedule yesterday, and I even did some homework and watched your YouTube videos yesterday. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm little by little. I'm working with people that I'm in literally a global movement mastery class.
Yeah.
And I know this is the stuff, and it can be used so many ways. I use it in family circles. I use it. I train people, like, what's your passion? You like gardening? Invite a group of people into your passion and do it with this format, and, take them out and plant some seeds with them and do a light and lively, and, whatever. It's just such I consider myself an artist, and human beings are my medium. Just come up with stuff and hope we all get to do it together. And it's so perfect for supervising, because it just takes it out of the hierarchy domain and puts it in equality, which is what a sane world is going to be. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. And we definitely need peace workers.
Amen. Yeah. All right. I see people coming back. I'm very grateful you're all here. Thank you. The next exercise.
I missed the first part. Is it okay if I attend the second part?
Absolutely. We are. Awesome.
Thank you.
I'll show you my face. The reason I don't show it is because my voice has been getting choppy, and it works better when it's not up there. But this is the format. I will be giving people resources in the chat toward the end.
Okay. Awesome.
That will, there's literally a 110-page piecework toolkit that you can take and run with and, utilize, and it explains the whole thing in great detail. So it's not specifically geared for supervision, but it's clearly adaptable in that direction. So the next exercise is called, I'll share my screen again, just so you feel included. I think that was it. It's called Peer Profundity. And I learned from this crew at Share about a chat fall. A chat fall is when we all go and we write something in the chat, but we don't hit return. We wait until I say go, and then we all hit return at once, so that we have just a big fat explosion of responses. And what the response that I'm looking for is for people to write a challenge, a supervisory challenge. And if you don't have one, don't write one. If you want to, make one up, anything goes. And then we will have a volunteer read everything in the chat or a couple volunteers if it works that way. And then we're going to have volunteers just field one after another for just, until it gets a little boring or the time gets a little, we'll just do 3 or 4 of them, whatever it takes, to just get everybody's opinion or ideas or experience on how to manage that particular challenge that they're experiencing. So does everybody understand that fairly well? Anybody need further explanation of that? Okay, so stop share. So you're going into your chat, but you're not hitting chat. It doesn't probably matter terribly much, but you're not hitting chat yet. You're doing it all at once. So when I say go, what challenges in supervision do you know of, have you experienced, that you could use peer support with? Can you imagine, in case you're not doing peer support yet? You might in the future. I'll just be quiet for a couple minutes and all right, is everybody pretty much done? That's pretty lengthy time. Anybody need any more time? Okay, then I say go. Hit that return button. Woohoo! Okay. All right, so we got some challenges. We got some supervisory challenges. And would somebody be willing to read them out loud? I see, starting with having a patient say untruthful things. Okay, will you read out loud, Paulette?
I'm
Yes,
only
I
seeing 2.
Okay, having a patient say untruthful things about you that gets you demoted from your job. Out. A clinician who deliberately riles up his colleagues in order to undermine leadership and set himself to be the hero. Toxic rumors among peers dealing with cascading half-truth. Past audio issues was unable to hear most of it on my end.
Sorry, Cece.
My challenge, working with my team to address cultural inequities within our community and make our clubhouse a safe space for everyone, as we are mostly white cisgender team. Staff turnover and excessive absences.
And for Cece, what we did was we wrote down supervisory challenges. We've all heard all of them. And now I'm inviting anybody who feels they could address any of them to give us our best answers. And then if a couple more people want to chime in on that topic, we can. So what we're doing is we're offering peer support as supervisors and seeing what we can come up with to help folks with these challenges. Does anybody see one that they would like to chew on? And Cece, you're welcome to add one now if you want to, if you heard me.
Thank you. I'm adding it right now.
Okay, great. Anybody want to chew? One of the things that I have learned to do in this format is be quiet for a long time, because usually somebody pops in eventually. It's good. And sometimes I offer.
Can you repeat the question, please?
If you're looking through these challenges, these supervisory challenges, and you see one that you feel you have an answer for, maybe you've been through it or you just have some smarts innately, whatever, then you can chew on that one that you think you could help us with. And then other people can chime in if they feel the urge afterwards.
I think that I don't have the answers, but I would like to say what Carrie and Paulette both were talking about with staff turnovers or excessive absences. With staff turnovers, what we've noticed is like we have people volunteer for a significant number of months or time before they can even become staff, because we want them to be, we want to know that this is where they want to be, you know, like we want to see that they have that buy-in and that they love being around. And so that kind of helps with like turnover. But excessive absences, we work in mental health and we're all peers and we have challenges, right? Like anxiety, depression, and different things that we go through. And so me personally, I believe that our society needs to be more flexible and change the culture of flexibility and time. And that's kind of what we do with our staff. Our staff has their specific things that they're responsible for doing and appointments and things of that nature, but they have flexibility in their schedules to reschedule something if they're having a bad day, or if you know, if something is off, because this isn't a normal job. This isn't a regular 9 to 5 where you're producing something. This is dealing with people's lives and you know, triggers and things of that nature. And so we try to encourage our staff to have, you know, self-care. Self-care is number one. You can't give what you don't have. And so we don't have a bad like punishment system or system for excessive absences, because we know that, you know, we are working with mental health and substance abuse, and we want to make sure that people, our staff and our volunteers and interns are practicing self-care things. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Cece. So the ones that kind of stand out to me is the challenges with the rumors.
All right, let me
And-
see if anybody's got any more on that last one, then we'll
Okay.
do that very next. So anybody other ideas about excessive absences or?
Yeah, that's a tough one that we faced. We're a real small agency, and we also have contractual requirements that say, you know, we have to provide services to so many people, and it's a real challenge. And we end up with a few people that, you know, I don't have an answer, you know, but I feel the pain, I guess, is what I want to say. And it's hard to find people right now. So just some situations where someone would be let go, you know, after a lot of compassion, and that we're not letting people go because we don't have enough people to do the job. So that's, I don't know if that's an answer or not, but that's my answer.
Thank you. Anyone else have a experience with that or chime in?
Not speaking as a supervisor, because I'm not a supervisor, but as a peer who also spent a great deal of time in the corporate world. I think the starting point is to engage with the individual who is having trouble being able to make it to work on time, or being able to maintain a commitment to being at work, taking time to understand what the situation is and approaching it from a collaborative point of view rather than you're outside the parameters and the requirements of the job, so blah, blah, blah. But approaching it collaboratively and trying to create solutions that are a win-win for both the individual and the organization. I think that'll take you halfway there.
Thank you, thank you. Carrie.
Well, I can definitely relate as well. I do not take an authoritarian approach to supervision because I've had those supervisors before in the past. And I really try to meet staff where they are. I supervise between 16 and 22 people. So that's a challenge all by itself. But I have one staff in particular that shows up between 50 to 65% of the time. And, you know, I have worked with this staff member on self-care. What could you be doing differently? You know, well, what are your goals? What are your plans? You know, really trying to, you know, support her. And, you know, her daughter has disabilities and I understand where she's coming from, you know, and because I've been there myself, you know, and but at some point, I feel like there has to be something done, you know, because I have other staff that are like, well, why is she not here? And why am I covering at this center? And, you know, why is this happening? And I can't get anything that I need to get done. And, you know, and so I found, you know, just offering support to the other staff as well. And, you know, telling them, well, we're not going to talk about her. We're going to talk about what you need to do. And, you know, so, but it is very stressful and it is very time consuming. So I just had to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Gwen?
If I could comment on what Carrie is going through. I also went through something similar too with us, an employee and one of our team members. And what I realized was the bigger picture of it is very similar to somebody struggling from an addiction, right? There's some people who are chronically late or chronically this or chronically that. And so, what we did was we used this as an opportunity for him to create a program. He had the problem, he's got to problem solve his way out of this problem. And that was the task that we gave him was, okay, this is, you know, this is something that you're not the only person that goes through this. There's a lot of people. So now so instead of giving him the answers to how can you make it to work on time? How can you, you know, be here, you know, all these different things. Now he's responsible for doing the same things that we walk alongside our peers with, right? And so we turned it from a problem into an opportunity for him. And that's what he's still working on, right? And that was because I just, for us, couldn't see myself like letting him go when he is in the thick of it. But again, he can't give if he doesn't have. And people are more likely to participate in something that they've helped to create. So we gave him the responsibility of creating a program for people who are chronically late or have a problem with attendance because he knows what he goes through to make for that to happen. So that's just, I don't know if that will help, but
that's a great idea. Thank you, Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that to me, that was priceless. I'm finding myself in a weird position because I've gotten involved in an organization. It's called Earthwaking, that I am just loving so much. And it's really making this point about we really are all sovereign beings. We are not, you know, as broken and pathetic as we think we are. We have so much going on and we there are dynamics, interpersonal dynamics that actually support us in remaining small when we really are. And it's time now to get big, get large, get who you are, get powerful, stand up for Gwen and be the child of God, the creator, made in the likeness and image, that kind of an idea that we're not these broken people that we're acting like, and allowing people to, it's not that you're punitive. That's the thing about, you're not coming from anger. You're not coming from judgment even. You're just saying there's a job that needs to be done. There's integrity that needs to sort of happen in this situation. And, me or we kind of facilitating you staying in this stuck place isn't healthy. It's not good for the organization. It's not good for you. It's not good for, so I mean, that line drawing behavior is something that's brand new for me. This is the mirror that I had up for me was, you don't draw lines, Noelle. You're letting people do stuff and slide when that's not the best thing for them. So it's such an interesting thing. But one thing that I feel like what you just explained, Gwen, of if you've got a mess, then you've got a message. If you're late, and we're going to make you into our expert on that. Figure it out and help other people not go there, because it's not. Are you happy with this dynamic? It's not. So anyway, what a great question. So I'm in a learning curve, that's for sure. One thing I want to say about this thing is this program, though, is if passion is ignited and people are coming to work and there's just excitement and joy, and I'm about to build a barn and you've got the wood and my father's got the hammer and let's do this, I think it's easier. Sometimes organizations are following like guidelines for grants and things like that, and I don't know, I worked for a couple of organizations that really took a big nosedive into what they were offering as peer providers. I will not mention them, but it got to be so much about the dollar and not about the joy and not about the environment of passion, anyway. And Robin, you had said something beautiful before, was the having people support you. That was helpful as a supervisor. So anyway, well, did you want to say something?
I didn't really have anything specific on this, but I do love the idea of like helping someone problem solve, and I love the idea of like let's treat this problem that this person has, the same way we would treat, someone that we're serving who is struggling with substance use or self-harm or any other, ineffective habit, and just kind of putting it on them to problem solve, but being there to support along the way.
Thank you. So are we ready to move on to CC and gossip? Or anybody else, any final thoughts? All right, you're up, CC.
All righty. So yeah, it's the gossip one, and then the staff who deliberately riles people up. We've had a couple of instances like that in the years that I've been with our company. And I think one of the things that it kind of boils down to, it's like a break in like team communication dynamics. So one of the things that we've implemented is team builders. So we do, pre-pandemic, we would do quarterly team builders, and it could be anything as simple as like taking a couple of hours to play like a board game together, or going out bowling together. It just really depends on like what the staff come up with. We've done like activities where we go golfing, or we spend a day at the local beach park playing volleyball and frisbee golf, so, and I think that kind of takes people out of that constant like alert situation at the center, and gets us out and really connecting with each other in a calm, relaxing activity. And that way you get to know each other and build that morale and rapport with each other. Because it's not just building rapport with our peers, but it's also building rapport with our staff. So
Excellent, thank you.
As a team member, a way that I can combat gossip is just to model only speaking encouraging of others, or when you speak about someone when they're not present, it's only a positive message, and making sure that I'm mindful about whenever I bring up someone's name, there's an associated positive thing applied to it. There's no any criticism that if I have like a conflict or an issue or a criticism of someone, it's directly to that person. I don't hang my laundry on the public line. So I feel that keeps me more centered and I'm more at peace. And it keeps the internal critic down to a minimum. Thank you.
And great modeling. Thank you. Cece?
I forgot to mention another key part to like our team cohesiveness is we have a team mini wrap, the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. So
yeah,
we always refer people back and hold them accountable to that as well too. So
excellent. Does everybody know what a wrap is? A wrap plan is? Have everybody heard about that on this? It's pretty well integrated into peer living. So anybody else with comments? I actually have a comment that I wanted to share, but anybody else got one? Let me blank myself out here. What I had was that I do these kind of tribal circles, teamwork circles, and there are specific exercises that help to out dynamics that are dysfunctional without direct confrontation. So the energy can come up and out without like there's anonymous type exercises. There's something called tell me what I want, what I really, really want. So if you're on your little team building, adventure, or, just in a staff meeting, just the universe put all the names in a hat. The universe picks who goes first and second. And so what does Constance really, really want? And all her team members say, well, Constance really likes it when people, are gentle with their speech. She's not into cursing. And Constance, and they'll just put it all up on the sheet. So everything about Constance is up in front of your face without her having to tell you or defend herself. And then she gets to adjust it at the end. Well, this is not true, but everything else was perfect. And it feels so validating. And so that's like a particular way of, that's just one of several exercises where we can sort of work together to get stuff out. And then when energy is out, so literally like, an anonymous exercise, what's the thing that you like least about working on this? I don't like gossip. You could write with your left hand and, so that the whole team is hearing. That's not something that washes here. We don't want that. That's not good enough for our way of being. And so then the whole team has come to some kind of a consensus that that's not the way we fly. And, if anybody's doing it, then they're automatically in some kind of discordant situation. They're not honoring the general culture. So that kind of stuff. Anyway. I think we have time. Let me see what my schedule here. I think we got time for one more if we want to. Any more comments on gossip and that like that before that goes away? And
I'd just like to thank everybody.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Richie, go ahead.
No, I want to thank everybody for their ideas about that. It's been a real problem for me to handle. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
I was just gonna say that old saying, if it's what mom says, if it's not nice, don't say it at all, right? Just keep your mouth closed. If it's not something that's nice, don't say it at all. And that should be like the golden rule of, would you want somebody to say that about you? Treat people the way you would want to be treated. We do this thing where after every group meeting, after every staff meeting, anytime we come together as a group, we always end and because we do it so often, anybody will start it at any time. It's kind of like our little wrap up, but we'll say to the person to our left, hi, Noelle, I'm so glad you're here. You've taught us so much today and we appreciate everything that you do and all that you have done. And I just want to say that, I really learned this, and that, and you are loved, valued, and respected. And then it just kind of goes around and then comes around back in circle and we all leave feeling filled up. feeling appreciated, and the negativity or any bad thing that might have happened throughout the day, or arguments or misunderstandings, has, it's kind of, it comes out during that time, so, but it comes out in a positive way.
That's beautiful. And that's literally the gift sharing exercise and Alternatives to Violence project. And honestly, after how many 40 some years that's been operating, I think it's very possible that, but they all borrowed from everywhere else too. So, but I mean, these kind of interactive experiences, it's endless goodness to just acknowledge and appreciate one another. It's free, it's honest, it makes you feel better for having given it. You get more for having given it. I mean, it's just astounding stuff. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So all right. I guess, I mean, I don't think it would be a terrible sin if you guys got out a little early. We'll see. We could go into, let me just see, does anybody else have any other of those that they are eager to work on? We could squeeze one more in if anybody's passionate to work on one of them. Okay, nobody seems to be passionate about working on one. So,
Yes, and
what was that? Was that you, Trista? All right, I'm going. I'm going to move on into the next little thing, which is basically to debrief that experience. How was that for people? And can you see as a potential piece of a supervisory situation, if you've got a few people to supervise, or if you join with other organizations and they would share that time with you, that you could put this kind of stuff out? I'm really struggling with this. And if you had, 10, 5, 15, whatever number of people, you'd get all these wonderful answers, some of them from people who are literally like doing well with that when they used to struggle. So they've got goods to give you. So what was that like for anybody? Yes, Carrie, please.
I could definitely see using that model because, I mean, especially with COVID, we don't really do much in person anymore. And so for our community meetings, or even, the meetings that I have with my peers and, the community or staff or whoever, if there's an issue or, something that you're wanting to brainstorm, it seems like a really good way to do that, because I really felt supported with the comments that were provided in the feedback. So I like to do things like that with the people that I'm working with, so that they feel the same way, because that's hugely important for me and them. So
Wonderful. And if you've got this is just a thought, and if you've got a situation where somebody in the circle is doing a behavior that is outside of the collective agreement, I'm not showing up on time, or I'm not showing up enough days, and so my work is falling on other people, that there literally are ways to address that are not direct confrontation, but show people's experience, of what it feels like to them, maybe some nonviolent communication kind of stuff, just this, and the tools you could use, appreciative inquiry, I've got some links in here, are just endless. And anything, I mean, literally, if somebody's a fanatic about yoga, you could stick in, before we do this, let's just do a 20-minute little yoga practice, sit in your chair or get on your mat or whatever, just anything that makes it fly. And all of a sudden we're living in this co-created universe where everybody's doing their best to assist everybody. And, somebody in the team might have a direct way of saying something that the supervisor doesn't, and that will cut through. Sometimes it hurts to hear the truth, and that's not a bad thing. It's, it cuts off the piece of you that's rotten. So,
well, and I have staff that are habitually late. They're scheduled to start at 8. Well, they come in at 11, and it's like, well, let's move it to 10. And they're still coming in late, and so it's I share my experience because I'm chronically late. I don't know if it's the PTSD. I don't know what it is, but my husband is late if he's 15 minutes early. I'm early if I'm 15 minutes late. So, that's just how I am. And so I try to share my experiences with working on that, and what's helped me. And, but I can relate with that. So.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Carrie. Anybody else? And I can just make it like, the general. I feel like, I'm going to probably be done a little bit early, but that's not the end of the world, depending on your feedback at this point. Is there anything else you want to say about this exercise or any of it? Or I think we can move basically into our evaluation, question and answer, what's next, that kind of piece of the show. So anybody have any evaluation kind of topics or questions? Or
I don't have
observations?
an, I don't have an evaluation because I just think it all was so good. I think that how you went through the welcome, the grounding, the agreements, the gathering, the exercises, all of that, and incorporating every voice and you know, showing us that this can be done in any different type of settings, that makes every voice heard is, that's what everybody wants. We all want to be heard, right? Most people want to be heard in some way, shape, or form. And if we're not heard, then you see acting out, right? That's when you start. It's like bad attention is better than no attention, right? So just making every voice heard. But if you don't mind at the end, since I got to start us with the grounding, there's something I like to say at the end to kind of end us off
Perfect.
too.
That would
But
be beautiful.
you let me know when.
Okay, that's perfect. And I mean,
Okay.
an exercise is the way she described one, a gift I see in you, and then we just go all the way around. But because of the way this is operating, I don't think that's going to work too well. But oftentimes I just say, would somebody close us out in love? Or, is there some, so that's what I was actually planning anyway. So thank you, Gwen, for volunteering early. And Robin, what did you have to say? Mike.
Um, just that I absolutely loved this. And you had mentioned nonviolent communication, which has just totally transformed my life and I love. And if you had some time after we close, I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about how to implement that into supervision.
Okay, that would be phenomenal. I don't know if I put my phone number in here. I will, but I think, yeah, I'll put my email and my phone number in the chat. And I will, it is so much meaning for me to share this and spread this. Because of my little dysfunction around, what's the word? I'm growing through, but seeing myself as like I have a hard time asking for income. I created a nonprofit organization so that I could say it's not me, it's this organization, is this outreach ministry, which is literally a church of sorts that is tax deductible. And it is, I'm working for on high. I want to spread this because I know how powerful it is. And it saved my butt. And I've seen it save so many people over 30 years doing this in prisons. I cannot tell you the transformation it has wrought. It is incredibly powerful. And, I just want everybody to do it. And I will take, millions of dollars if somebody offers at this point, and I will do it for free. And that's just how it is. So I will connect you there. Let me I'll put all that in the chat after I hear some more of the comments. And then Richie.
Yeah, when I see everybody come together like this, it makes me feel kind of fulfilled, because during the pandemic, my need for these professional connections really hasn't been met. And today they were met. And I guess my request going forward would be to those of you that get a chance to participate in things like this, go ahead and squeeze in the time to do it, because I get a lot out of making this connection. I live in a very small rural area, far away from things. And going forward, I would hope we can get together in person at this conference or other conferences, because that visual, in the same space connection, really adds to it. It's hard for me to sit in front of my computer all day and do this. But thank you. And thank you.
Thank you, Richie. Harry, I love you. Everybody's sharing so much. Thank you.
I just want to say that I was brought into peer support because I realized that all the other methods of healing weren't working for me. The traditional methods of dealing with my lifelong situation or challenges. I finally realized that only by helping and encouraging other people was I being healed. And then that got me to a point of being able to finally get over the big stumbling block I had my whole life. Was I was trying to experience God through literature, if you will, through books, whether it was the Bhagavad Gita, whether it was Buddhist writings, the Bible, etc., whatever, theology, philosophical musings, poetry. It was when I finally had the crisis of my mental health challenges, got me to the point where I just finally had to surrender, and realizing that when I encourage other people, I heal. When I go out, I acknowledge the magnificence of creation. I see a squirrel, I see the tree, I see the flower, whatever. That helps me stay grounded. And I try to take that same energy when I interact with other people and realize that the energy that's going on with the tree is the same energy that I can have with another in a verbal communication or nonverbal, whatever. It doesn't have to be this human construct that's based around conflict and competition based, which is a patriarchal system that was imposed upon us. But we can go back to our roots, because our roots was the tribal circle. We were all reliant upon each other. We weren't engaged in this one-upmanship. So I see a lot of connections with spirituality with this. So thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful. I've been doing this all the way through in the prison workshops and the circles. We do this so we're not going like this every time somebody says something we love. This is a clapping quietly, a twinkling. Thank you very much, Harry. That was just beautiful. And it's tribal. It's just, oneness. It's just so lovely. Somebody said one of these days we're just going to open these circles and it's going to be one big circle. And that's, life on earth, and we're getting there. And this will help. And if, any of you takes any of it and uses any of it, you have made my, this is the purpose that I am functioning for at this point in time. So I will tell you what I'm putting in the chat. I just, I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in here, and I'll just explain what it is, and I'll put my phone number in my, what do I got? I got my website where you can get the free Piecework Toolkit. I just changed out all the photos because I thought I was legitimate with these free photos from Bing, but apparently they might have been copyright infringement, so all the photos were just changed. Yay. And that's really comprehensive. It's got just everything in it. It, might take a little effort to read it, but it's pretty cool because it's got lots of pictures, and it's got like inspiring handouts. It's got exercises, it's just a sampling, and it's got a real explanation of how to put it together and why the pieces are the way they are. Then there's also my old website, which was my business, which is a lot more comprehensive. So if you want to learn about family